gentlemen. I'm Curtis Round, and welcome to Final Take. Joining me on the debate desk tonight is Adam Yurkovsky and Justin Pomplin. Well, guys, how are you doing on this fine evening?
Doing good. How are you?
Oh, it's a fantastic night. We're ready to debate some sports, and I'm ready to take all the hits I can take tonight.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day out, nice fall day, can't complain, just smooth sailing, can't wait to debate.
Well, let's get right at it tonight with some Pointers updates, SPASH football news, and later on, some NFL and MLB playoffs news around the MLB. So let's get to it right away. The UW-Stevens Point football team took it to the road this past weekend, traveling to UW-Platteville to take on the Pointers. It wasn't a pretty game, as the Pointers took the loss 31-13. The Pointers were outgained in the game by a lopsided margin of 459 to 186. Guys, let's start with you, Johnson. What went wrong for this Pointers team?
Well, first it starts on the offense, and obviously offensive line. I gave them a little bit of praise last week, but this week they were just awful. They had absolutely no running game. Quarterback was running for his life all day. They gave up a couple sacks. It's just the whole offense looked bad.
Yeah, and I think nerves probably played a big part in it. I think, it was a big game for them midway through the season here against, a pretty closely ranked team in Platteville. And I think nerves just got to them because they're a pretty young football team. And I think they finally just got caught up in their nerves. And you've got to wonder at this point if game planning isn't becoming an issue because they went down pretty early in the game. And you've got to wonder if Coach Janelle needs to mix it up a little bit with the game planning.
Well, yeah, and you talk about nerves in the offense, but what about the defense? 459 yards on the offense for the Platteville. That's inexcusable right now. This defense is playing at a high caliber level coming into this game. And I talked about this with Matt Zazinski, and I asked him, well, why do you guys struggle so much versus your conference? And I know it's a conference game, and they play them a lot, so they always see them every year. But it seems every time we play the conference teams, they just struggle and can't find a way to win. And the offense, too. 100 and some yards in an entire game, that's terrible. That just can't happen. I want to tell you guys this. I told you so. All right? Coming into this game, you were both high on the Pointers. Oh, they're 5-0, they're this and that. They did this the last couple of years. They've started off so hot, and then they always falter at the end when they end up playing their conference. It's the same old story for this Pointer team.
Maybe not really in the past couple of years. They haven't started off that hot. Last
year they were 4-0 and they ended up 5-5.
But they didn't have the greatest offense last year. This year, the team was definitely much improved over the past year. The early long bus ride trip down there might have had a little bit of impact. They just didn't have the energy for that game. And obviously familiarity with your opponents. They play each other year in and year out. So games are going to be obviously a lot different than non-conference
games. You talk about the offense not being there. Do you think maybe this offense was a fluke to begin the season? This is just a fluke and they just – do you see that?
No, I think just the competition in the conference has definitely stepped up, and they just hit a rough spot right now.
Yeah, see, what you're acting like right now is that they haven't really accomplished anything right now. But at this point, how can you not give them some praise when they start off 5-0? They knock off a team like North Central, they're a top 10 team. Who
played their worst game ever this entire season.
And I understand that. I understand that, but you still got to give the Pointers credit for a win like that. That team, no matter how bad they played, they're still a really good football team, and they came into our house.
A really good football team that every year seemed to can't beat their conference.
No, not
if
the
you want to have that every year,
I was saying
North
Central.
Don't care.
I was saying North Central was a very good football team, no matter how bad they played that game. Stevens Point still deserves a lot of credit for game
Their
playing.
Achilles heel is their conference, and Jocelyn said this was probably the most important game for them, and I totally agree with you. Them winning this game versus Platteville really would have set the tone, and they came out and they really they didn't pick up the ball, and that's what they dropped the ball on this one, and they do that every year though. That's what I'm saying. Every single year they seem to lose to their conference. Every team that's good in their conference.
Yeah, and I understand that, but this year I think they've got a different team. Yes, they got a hiccup here against Platteville, but they're not hopeless against their conference this year. I wouldn't say that. I would say that moving forward, they need to find a balance because, 39 attempts for them on the ground and then only getting 25 yards, that's atrocious. Okay, I understand that. But they need to find a balance. But their offense isn't a fluke, I don't think. I think Kyle Larson played brilliantly those first 4 games. And then you look at him as a young quarterback, he's still, he's in the conference now, and he hasn't really seen these teams as a transfer quarterback. So now I think that he's getting eased into the conference play a little bit. I think he'll improve the next few weeks, but they're not a fluke. I wouldn't say that.
All righty, let's move on here. Another poor outing on the ground. They only gained 25 rushing yards on 39 attempts. That's god-awful. I'm just seeing this stat now. You got to be kidding me. 25 yards on 39 attempts. Us three could get out there at running back and probably run for 25 yards. I mean, where is this? And me and Adam talking about the offensive line, and you said, well, the running backs aren't patient. They got to give some push. Come on here.
Yeah, the offensive line does have to get some push going up front. I mean, there was no push at all in this game. I mean, some of those attempts were the quarterbacks running around off scrambles. But, yeah, the offensive line just did not play well this game. They need to find a way to get that running game going.
And you talk about this game. They really haven't run blocked well all season long, I would say. And also, talking about the running backs, I think you've got to think about switching it up who's starting the games for you. Because if you look at a guy like Christian Almonte, he's shown that he can be electric. He's a freshman running back. I know he's young, but he only got 1 carry for 2 yards in that Platteville game. Whereas Dwan Wright, I think you said 8 carries on the day, and he didn't do anything. So maybe switch it up and get something going where you get a good balance on offense, because they need that right now.
Well, yeah, and Christian Almonte, he always brings a spark. He has those flaws a little bit here and there with the fumbles and stuff, but I think he just adds a spark for this offense going forward. Well, Kyle Larson was 18 of 31 with 2 touchdowns and an interception, while Jared Pinkow led the way with 5 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown. Logan Taylor also had a touchdown catch and then on the defensive side, Jake Luke, he led the way with 13 tackles, and John Conowitz added 11. The Pointers are unable to generate any pressure on the quarterback, letting Pioneer quarterback Bryce Kerrigan throw for 318 yards and 2 touchdowns, with 215 of the yards and a touchdown going to Russell Martin. This defense was not as themselves in this game. Why was this?
Well, they got beat up front. I mean, Corrigan had all day to throw, no sacks. I don't think they had any sacks on the day. I mean, they had turnovers, but those are fumbles. They weren't able to get any of and those fumbles were like muffed kicks. So really the defense wasn't able to get the pressure, weren't able to get the interceptions, force any turnovers. And then once they got down so big that just all the energy was drained out of them, and just Platteville just ran all over them.
Yeah, and throughout the year we've praised that front 7 about getting pressure on quarterbacks. And where were guys like Aaron Carlin, Dan Brown, and even Bo Seibel, the linebacker? He's blitzed really well this year for him. How could they not get any pressure and get at least 1 or 2 sacks on the day against that Pioneer offense?
Well, Adam, this is the case here. The Pointers, it's finally taken a toll on them from the beginning of the season. The comeback wins, the defense always pulling the load. The backs are getting sore. I mean, they've been carrying that team all year. And it's about time it's finally showing up, and the Pointers have faced a reality. Now, it's going to be interesting to see if they can jump back from that and have a big boost this week when they face lacrosse. But I really think it's finally taken a toll on this defense, and we've finally seen the reality of this team, that this defense has carried this team the whole entire way, and the slow starts followed again this week. And we talked about this. The slow starts are going to catch up to them when it comes down to it.
Well, here's the thing, too. I think if you look at the Pointers' defense, they're not – I would say that they game planned poorly in this game. They probably game planned to stop the run, because Platteville has a really good running back. And so they probably game planned a little bit too much to stop that, and they probably played off a little bit to try and do a little zone in the linebackers there. And so they gave the quarterback a lot of pressure. So I don't know if they just weren't blitzing a lot or what, but I think game planning is a pretty big issue right now for the Pointers.
I don't think any of us so far, you just mentioned a little bit, we haven't really given Platteville any credit. I mean, this team is still a good team coming in. And maybe it was just the talent they did. They just over-game planned, and they game planned well versus us, and I think that was the case. Well, the Pointers suffered their first loss of the season, dropping their record of 5-1 overall and 2-1 in the WEAC. The Pointers fell to number 19 in the week's D3Football.com poll, and the Pointers' next game is Saturday, October 25th, as they take on UW Lacrosse. How can the Pointers bounce back this week, Jocelyn, and do they still have a shot at the playoff?
Well, I think the way they bounce back is the way to get the balance that we've talked about all these times in the defense, forcing turnovers, and the offense control time of possession like we've stated all year. So that's how they need to get back on track. This is a very winnable game at home. Lacrosse is middle of the conference team, but it's still a winnable game. And to make the playoffs, it's going to be tough. I mean, they're still alive if they win out, but I really don't see that happening with this trip still them having to go to Whitewater. But 8-2 in the toughest conference, with losses to Platteville and Whitewater and a quality win over North Central, gives them a shot to make it, but it's going to be a long one.
Yeah, and like you said, the balance is key for the offense moving forward. But I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball again, and I think it starts with that defense, sadly. Like you said, they've carried the load all season long, but they're going to have to continue carrying the load, I think, if they're going to keep winning this season. And if they have one more hiccup against a team like Lacrosse or Oshkosh coming up here, it's going to be a big hit, and they'll be out of the playoff race for sure. But I think, like Justin said, they've got a chance. But right now it's an outside chance looking in. But don't discount them. I mean, if they gain momentum here going into that Whitewater game, who knows what could happen.
Well, yeah, and I think the key here is I think the blunder started in the Eau Claire game. Granted, they won by a blowout. That offense from that game on just did not look itself. I mean, Matt Zazinski was dropping balls. Kyle Larson was airing the ball all over the field, throwing out of bounds and away from his receivers. And I think that's really started this a domino effect for this offense. So I think this week, if this offense can come out firing, get some score on the board early and help this defense out, I think that's going to be the key for them moving forward and hopefully making a playoff push, because we'd all like to see them make the playoffs. It's been a while. Well, kickoff is set for 1 at Gerke Park. Also, don't forget to wear your Halloween costume for Nightmare at Gerke, with prizes for best costumes given out at halftime. And remember, me and Adam will be calling that game. Jocelyn will be there, statistics guy for them. So we come out for that one. It's going to be a showdown. Well, in volleyball news, the Pointers continued their winning ways by defeating number 2 ranked opponents over the weekend in the UW-Eau Claire Fall Classic. Pointers defeated number 21 Milliken 3-1 and then proceeded to beat number 15 Trinity 3-2. Emma Brunkhorst had 50 kills on the day, and Alexis Hartman had 93 assists in the 2 matches, including 55 in the game against Trinity. This team seems to be hitting its stride. What are the expectations for the rest of the season for this volleyball team?
Well, as you just said, they definitely are hitting their stride. I mean, they've won at least 10 in a row or something like that. They're on fire right now. Expectations should be conference champs. I mean, that's what their expectations were at the beginning of the season, and I expect them to make a deep run in an NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and I think they've got a very special team. If you look at them across the board, they have contributors every week that just seem to keep stepping up for them, and it's different people every week just stepping up for them, so I think they've got a very good team.
All right, well, we'll take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we will have SPASH football and discuss what happened around the college football this past weekend. Stay tuned.
My name is Julia Flaherty. I'm the current promotions director at SPTV. My job allows for me to have a lot of personal creative direction because that is the team environment that we instill here at SPTV. This past summer, I had the opportunity to write for hercampus.com as well as thedailyquark.com. Personally, I feel that being involved with SPTV has really helped boost my confidence and my ability to network with other students. If student media is something that interests you, and even if you're not really sure what student media means, you should stop by our studios. We are looking forward to having you involved this year, and we cannot wait to make media with you.
Stevie Pointer loves SPTV News and the News' producers. Watch SPTV News weekly for breaking, campus, and local news across Stevens Point. Only on Charter Channel 983. Serving a campus of 9,600 strong. We are the home of UWSP Television. We are SPTV. You can find us on Charter Channel 983, online, or on any of our social media sites.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The SPASH Panthers took on Oshkosh West last Friday night and came away with a dominating 43-10 road victory. However, it wasn't enough to get the Panthers into the playoffs, and they finished the year with a 5-4 record. The rest of the WIAA playoffs begin this weekend. Now in the college football world, number 2 Florida State held on to beat number 5 Notre Dame in a Saturday night thriller, 31-27. And Alabama rolled over Texas A&M 59-0. West Virginia upset number 4 Baylor 41-27, and TCU dominated Oklahoma State 42-29. What did you guys take away from the weekend, and is there any updated playoff scenarios so far?
Well, I guess the Florida State Notre Dame game, I mean, that was truly a great game. Showed Florida State is for real. I mean, they've had their ups and downs this year, but they beat a top 5 team in a primetime game, so they're still a top contender. And for a playoff, I have Florida State because their schedule is pretty easy the rest of the way. The SEC champion, no matter who it is, I think gets in because of the strength of the conference. Oregon, if they get in, they can get in if they win out, but they have to win out. They suffer another loss. It doesn't matter even if they win the conference championship. And then in the Big 12, depending on who wins, if they both win, one of them wins out, TCU or Kansas State, but one of them has to win out. If they both lose, it's a toss-up. And then if Michigan State or Ohio State win out in the Big 10. So, and then if none of that happens, I mean, really, I think I got 6 teams fighting for 4 spots, which would be the 5 conference champions, and then the 6th spot would go to a second team out of the SEC.
Now, Adam, let's take us through this game. Florida State, Notre Dame, the last drive. I mean, what was going through your mind? And then to see that penalty after they scored, you probably were jumping up and down, and it was a little predetermined, and then you had to sit back down and cry over the loss.
I actually didn't even get to watch the game, sadly. I was out of town, but the main thing I take away from
A Notre Dame fan who says he's loyal is out of town not watching that game. They're going to look down upon you for this one.
I know. I feel rotten. But the main thing is that I got from this weekend is that you look at that Notre Dame football team, a lot of people didn't give them credit going into Tallahassee like that with how shaky they've played against teams like North Carolina and Syracuse. And then Everett Golson comes in there and plays up and down like he has all year, but he comes through when it matters, and he had a lot of good passes out there. And it was just a great team effort by Notre Dame. And in many ways, I think they outplayed Florida State. I think that they deserve to win that football game, and for it to end on a penalty is just heartbreaking for the Notre Dame fan base. And so you look at it, I think Notre Dame's got a very good chance to still make the playoff. And speaking of the playoffs, I've got an update, and with Alabama and Oregon losing, I don't think Oregon's going to win out. I personally don't. I think, they still got to play Stanford, and that's going to be a tough game for them. But number one, I've got Mississippi State. They're playing so hot right now, and I think they're pretty for real right now. And then number 2, I've got Florida State. I'll give them respect where respect's due. They've played real good, and I think Notre Dame was their last true test going into the rest of their season. And then number 3, I've got Notre Dame. I think they're going to win out, and I think there's going to be a lot of one-loss teams there. And since Notre Dame wins out and played so tough with Florida State, how can you not put them in there? And then number 4, I'm going to put Michigan State in there because I think they're going to roll the Big Ten.
Now, I mean, fire back. I know a couple weeks ago, Josh, and you were pretty hard said that Notre Dame wasn't making this playoff.
I don't think they can make it, one, because of the conference championship games. I mean, that's an extra game for these top teams against top competition that a lot of the committee is going to look at. So I think that's one reason that why Notre Dame doesn't get in.
Yeah, but you look at top competition. I mean, they still got to play USC. They had a really good game against Stanford, who I know is not as good as many people thought, but they still have one of the top 5 defenses in the country, and Notre Dame beat them. And I think you look at how tough Notre Dame played against that Florida State team, and it was an all-around effort. Their defense played good. They rattled Jameis Winston all game long. And, I mean, I wasn't there to watch it. I watched the highlights. But, I mean, and you look at how well that Notre Dame team played. If they went out, which I think they can easily do, I don't think they're going to stumble against teams like USC and Arizona State. How can you not put them in, man?
Just the conference championship. The conferences does that extra game that's going to go a long way. And then I don't think their schedule is as tough as like the SEC teams.
Well, and I mean that I would be a fool to disagree with you on that. I mean, if you look at the whole SEC West, there's 4 teams that arguably could make up the playoff right there with Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Auburn. But I think just how it's going to be set up, I think they're going to look at Notre Dame and how tough they've played and how their offense is able to score so many points when they turn the ball over 5 times in a game. I mean, if they clean up their act down the stretch here and play flawless football, they're going to make it no problem.
Well, Adam, you're already a fool because you didn't even watch the game and you're still back in Notre Dame. So let's move on now to the NFL. The Green Bay Packers offense continued its hot streak as they defeated the Carolina Panthers 38-17. Aaron Rodgers threw for 255 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jordy Nelson had 80 yards, and he had a touchdown. Randall Cobb had 120 yards and a touchdown. What has got this offense clicking so far, Justin?
Well, I think when Aaron Rodgers said relax, I mean, it just calmed everyone down, calmed their nerves down. And Rodgers has been playing lights out since then. I mean, 13 touchdowns, no interceptions. Nelson and Cobb have been unbelievable. The defense has even picked up the slack a little bit. And then Aaron Rodgers just being himself.
Yeah, I think, it starts with one man on that team. It's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's playing flawless. He's back in his MVP form. Even better, I would argue, than his MVP season right now because I think he's got, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions in the last 4 games or something like that, which is very impressive. And I think you look at this team as a whole, though, I'm not sold on them just because you look at who they've played the last 3 weeks. They could have played some stiffer competition. Then if they would have played this well, that would have convinced me. But the last 3 weeks have been kind of slump teams, and I think don't read too much into it, Packer Nation.
Yeah, and speaking of the relaxing, I was at the game and the fans had a big sign that said "relax" up on right down on the sidelines by the Packers, so that was pretty cool. Well, the defense was also playing better. How has this defense improved so much with all the injuries they've had?
I think it's been the pass rush. I mean, they've been able to put pressure on the quarterbacks. They've gotten their fair number of sacks. The run defense has even gotten a little bit better, and that can go a long ways. So, and then they're forcing key turnovers at opportune times, which leaves a short field for the offense, and they just feed off that momentum.
You talk about how they've improved. I don't really think they have. I'm going to touch on again, who have they played in the last 3 weeks that showed how they've improved? They've improved because of the teams they've played. I mean, if you look at Seattle, they romped them. And so teams like that are still going to romp that Packers defense, I think. And you've got to give credit where credit's due with all the injuries. But with the 3 teams they played the past 3 weeks, I'm not sold on their defense.
I mean, I see where you're coming from there. I just think with the turnovers they create, and you can say it's from the teams they've been playing, but they've been creating turnovers no matter what, and that's been taking them a long way and blowing out these teams. Well, speaking of defense, it's been rough so far for the Panthers. Their defense continues to struggle. They have now given up more than 37 points in the last 4 of the 5 games. Yet this team is still in first place. Who wins the NFC South, and have we separated contenders from the pretenders?
Who wins the NFC South? I have no idea. It can still a 3-team race between Atlanta, New Orleans, and Carolina. I mean, they're only a game and a half. Atlanta's 2-5, and they're like a game and a half out. Anybody could win that division, so that's what I'm going to say for that. And then contenders, pretenders, there are teams that are starting to pull away from the others. Green Bay's 5-2, but they haven't played the greatest competition. Detroit's winning without Calvin Johnson, and then how about the NFC West? Seattle's absolutely fallen off the face of the earth the past 2 weeks. So there's been teams that have stepped up and teams that have fell off, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, and I think as far as the South is concerned, I'm still sticking by my pick, the New Orleans Saints. I know they've played really bad, but they're going to win that division for 2 reasons, and that's they have the best quarterback in the division and the best coach in the division. And you can talk about the Panthers, but what happened to their defense? I mean, I will ask you personally, I suppose. But
Wait, what are you asking me here?
what happened to Carolina's defense?
I'll answer that quick, but hold on. How come if the Saints have the best quarterback and the best coach, how come they didn't win that division last year then? Alrighty. Now, going on to the Panthers defense here. I wonder the same thing, Adam. You know, this defense ranked number 2 in the league last year. They've lost, two guys in their secondary who were 2 or 3 main guys in their secondary to free agency. And that's all really they lost. And then they lost Greg Hardy. One guy does not make a defense, but it's clearly showing that it is right now. They don't have a pass rush. They can't stop the run. Guys are over pursuing and doing more things than they should be right now. And it's become a tornado effect for this defense. The team, I don't know where they turned. They just released a safety who was in a corner that they switched to a corner, nickel corner this week. Charles Godfrey, he's been with them for 7 years. They released him, and now they're trying to go with young talent in the secondary. I really don't know what this team is about right now. It'll be interesting to see how they play. They have a tough road ahead. I mean, they're playing Seattle this weekend, then going to New Orleans. It's going to be a tough road ahead for them. I still think they can win this division. If Cam Newton can bounce back from this past week, and hopefully something gets going for this Panthers team, I really still think they have a shot. And I know every year they play the Saints pretty well and the Falcons, so I still think they can be in this one.
Yeah, and just to defend myself a little bit, Curtis, I'll tell you why the Saints didn't win last year. Carolina played out of their minds when a lot of people thought they wouldn't, so I'll give that credit.
I got a better answer. There's been no repeat division winner in that division since like the early 2000s.
There hasn't, but it might happen this year to a team that's not even going to be that great, it's very shocking if that does happen. Well, on Sunday night, a little bit of NFL history was made. Peyton Manning broke Brett Favre's record for most career passing touchdowns. Will this record ever be broken again, Johnston?
It's tough to say. I mean, Drew Brees is the next closest, but I doubt he gets there because Manning's still got another year or 2 left, and Drew Brees has not played the greatest this year. I mean, if you look down the road, Andrew Luck's playing well, Matt Stafford, he's at the pace he's on, he's got a chance, but who knows what Manning might set it at. But with all the rule changes that help the quarterback, and now there's a passing league, there's a potentially that it could be, but not for a while.
Yeah, like Jackson said, I personally don't think it will ever be touched. I think he has a good year or two left in him. Even if he wins the Super Bowl this year, I think if he's playing at this high a level and he loves the preparation of the game, because that was a big part of him keeping playing here, I think he's just going to keep throwing touchdowns. He's Peyton Manning. And I think that the only guy I see right now that's in the NFL that could touch is Andrew Luck. And even then, if he keeps playing so inconsistent like he has early in his career, I don't know if he could.
Yeah, I don't see anyone touching this record. I thought Peyton Manning would be the one to break it, and he has. I don't see anyone coming up in the ranks. I mean, you could throw Tom Brady, possibly Drew Brees if he plays till he's 50. I mean, I don't really know. I just don't see anyone. Peyton Manning, best regular season quarterback. I mean, hands down. This guy's been lights out. Now, can you say the talent around him that he's had has been good? Yeah. I mean, if you maybe throw Tom Brady in there, you could probably say he might have the numbers Peyton Manning has. But I'm telling you what, Peyton Manning, it was just remarkable what he's done coming back from these neck surgeries. I mean, he missed a season and he's already broken Brett Favre's record. It's outstanding right now. Well, we're going to talk about the MLB playoffs, even though they're giving us a cutoff sign. I really don't care. MLB playoffs last night, the Royals beat the Giants. The Giants beat the Royals. Let's talk about that a little bit. What do you see out of this matchup and who wins this one?
Well, I think the luck of the Royals had, I think the long time off, I think their luck wore off a little bit. I mean, they were getting every bounce, extra inning wins, comebacks. It just took a lot out of them. In San Francisco, the experience, they've been there before, they know what to expect. So I think they're going to win it in a stat. Game 1 winner has won 10 of the last 11, so San Francisco's got this.
Yeah, and I picked the Giants to make it there against the Royals, and I've got them in 4 or 5 games. And honestly, if the Royals play like they did last night, it's going to be 4 games, no doubt, and they'll end it in San Francisco with a heck of a season. So
you both got San Francisco in this one.
Yeah.
I'm still going with the underdog. Everyone loves them. I think the Royals can come back from this, and hopefully they do because they deserve it. I mean, what they've done in this postseason has just been remarkable. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have time for today. We thank everyone for tuning in with us. I'd like to thank Jocelyn Pomplin and Adam Yurkovsky for joining me on the debate desk with their insightful opinions. And a big thanks to our technical staff and all their hard work to make this possible. Be sure to check us out on Facebook at SPTV UWSP Television or follow us on Twitter at SPTV_UWSP. Also visit the UWSP Athletic page for all of your athletic updates. Until then, Pointers, just remember, here at Final Take, anything Pointers, anything sports. I'm Curtis Round, this is Adam Yurkovsky and Justin Pomplin. If you enjoy our Final Take show, make sure you tune in every week to stay up to date on Stevens Point sports. Remember, Pointers, anything sports.
The Love Doctor is in. Watch SPTV's new series featuring college dating advice, love confessions, and more. Michaela Hilgert is The Love Doctor. Watch the new series premiering this fall on SPTV Charter Channel 983.
My name is Lance Castor. I graduated from UW Stevens Point in 2014. I started at SPTV my junior year. I was looking for a fun experience that also provided me with a chance to learn something, and SPTV was the place to come. Right now, I'm employed at WFRV-TV, the CBS affiliate located in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I can handle it because of what I was able to learn here at SPTV. You can be as creative as you want here. The only limits are those that you put on yourself. Those limits will
Hi, I'm Laura Braun, the General Manager at SPTV. I'm a Stevens Point native and want to make sure that we're providing you with the best local coverage of all the news, sports, and entertainment as we possibly can. If you have any questions or comments about our organization, feel free to email us or stop by our offices. We're located in the Communication Arts Center at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point and can't wait to meet you, because today we can make media together.